Hi everyone, and welcome to TWF. Hi everyone, and welcome to TWF Dynamite or Mike. I'm Mike Lane, Tony Schiavone, and Taz here. And today on Dynamite or Mike, we're gonna have the TWF Death Match winnings, also known as hard middle or hard made wrestling winnings, or hard made winnings here. And you do know, Mike Lane said there's only very few skilled wrestling businesses that still do it today. Well, Tony Schiavone said one will be XPW, the other one will be CZW, and the other one will be JCW. They're the only three small skilled wrestling businesses that still do it. Well, yeah, that was right, Mike and Tony. And back in the day, you had ECW from between 92 while to 2001 while doing it, and it may have been what gave the thought to CCW, XPW, and JCW doing it. Taz says, and I should know because I was a former two-time ECW heavyweight fighter, so I should know how that was like. So. Alright, we're gonna go to the ring now. Yeah, well, I also don't forget, Taz said I also was a former two-time ECW tag team fighter, two-time ECW Farseer fighter, two-time ECW heavyweight fighter, three-time WWF hard middle fighter, one-time WWF tag team fighter. So I think I should know a little bit about that. Alright, Autolycus says, I talked with Astronomer or Corone about I wanting to have a match, how I, the TWF hard middle fighter, and how I think that since we know where Keith Lee's at, I want to have a match with him. So why don't you come out here, Astronomer, and give me that match. First off, Autolycus, the king of thieves, you should give me a little onlook too, for being the overseer of leadership of the toy wrestling gathering. Yes, I get it. I'm the nearest thing you have to Adam Pearce and Nick Ambrose and Ava Rain and Santina Morella and Zack Ryder and Christopher Daniels. If everybody gives them onlook, then most likely I should have onlook. So yes, you want to fight Keith Lee, who's been missing for some time, but we know where he's at now, Astronomer says. Yeah, I do. Under the grounds that Keith Lee is a former TWF hard middle fighter, he at least won it once. He hasn't really done anything in AEW. Well, Eclipter says, yeah, he was a former AEW tag team fighter with Isaiah Scott. But yeah, he hasn't really done anything. He hasn't really done nothing since then. A lot of folks like to say how AEW does great things with every single wrestler they get, but some they don't. It's true, Eclipter says. The only thing Keith Lee did, he did a lot more in his WWE run as the WWE NXT North Finlander fighter, the WWE NXT heavyweight fighter. So Astronomer says, you want to fight Keith Lee here today on Dynamite or Mike for the TWF hard middle winnings? Well, here it is. You got your match. Well, one would say Mike Lane said it was a slight on Keith Lee since he really hasn't done anything in his AEW run, and he did a lot more in his WWE run. Mostly when he was on NXT, because when he went to Raw, that was where it didn't do very well. Oh, alright, so what are you coming out here sliding me for, Keith Lee says. I mean, come on. Where did you, Autolycus? Yes, it's true. In my WWE run, when I was on NXT, I did win the WWE NXT North Vinlander winnings. Then I won the WWE NXT heavyweight winnings. Then I went from NXT to Raw. And yeah, I didn't really do much on Raw, except I almost beat Drew McIntyre for the WWE heavyweight winnings. And I had some really good matches with Randy Orton and Sheamus O'Shaughnessy. Yeah, but you did a lot more. Then you went to AEW and you won AEW tag team winnings once. So yeah, what is it? AEW didn't know what to do with you? You know? I don't know what. But I do know one thing. You keep running. I don't know what. Alright? It was a mistake. Yeah. I got fired from WWE, I think in 2021 while or something like that. And then I went to AEW because AEW said that they were going to do great things with me. And that was a lie, because the only thing Shao Kahn and Anthony Kong could think to do, was make me a hard middle, was make me team up with Isaiah Scott, which he's now the AEW heavyweight fighter. And I didn't do shit after that. Yeah, I was only a one-time AEW tag team fighter. So yeah. So that was my mistake. I gotta deal with that. I just gotta hope that one day Ariel, Adele, and Patrick Whitesell, and Mark Shapiro, and Nick Kong, Hunter Helmsley bring me back. But you just pissed me off. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, wow, Keith Lee got pissed off, by Autolycus, bringing up how he didn't do anything in AEW, and how he was dumb, to take up Shao Kahn and Anthony Kong, Crystal Daniels, and Sensei Dutt, and QG Marshall, and Jeff Jarrett, and Kenny Omega, and Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson's deal. Mike Lane said, well, Tony Schiavone says AEW's dropped the ball on some wrestlers like WWE has. Oh, Keith Lee just knocked him down, and that little stairs couldn't handle it. Keith Lee right now hitting Autolycus with some kind of staff. Would fit in his hand. Would fit in the Keith Lee's hand, Tony Schiavone says. And this is Keith Lee's Mattel WWE doll, not the AEW, not the Jack's AEW doll, which we have seen it, but it's not much of an likeness. And Keith Lee right now is just hitting, Autolycus with that staff. And now Keith Lee now getting pissed off and has hit Autolycus with some more things, Mike Lane says. Well, Autolycus brought it on himself, Taz says. He had to go slight Keith Lee for making a mistake of taking AEW up on taking Shao Kahn and Anthony Kong up on the AEW deal, knowing that they don't, not knowing that they weren't going to do anything good, with him. How is he supposed to know that? Taz says. Well, it's not really Keith Lee's mistake. It isn't like Keith Lee knew, Tony Schiavone said, that when he went to AEW from WWE, it wasn't like he didn't know that Shao Kahn and Anthony Kong, the only thing they could say, he'd be making some good gals and that'd be it. Tony Schiavone says. Right now, Autolycus just dropped Keith Lee head first into that board over there. And now Autolycus is beating up Keith Lee with some things that came from the Dollar Tree, at least. Well, yeah, because this came, from the Dollar General, or the Dollar Main, Mike Lane says. Autolycus right now doesn't really need any weapons. He already got 2 weapons in his hands. That blade and that whatever other thing. And Autolycus wants to show that he is still hard middle, even though he did lose the TWF hard middle winnings one time. Oh! And Autolycus just hit Keith Lee with that sandbags. Mike Lane says. Alright, Tony Schiavone says Keith Lee right now is in the bind. Autolycus is putting up that board again. And it's a wonder that board hasn't broke. You know, it's not made for that. Oh! No, it is not made for that kind of thing. But it's holding up well, Tony Schiavone said. Well, yeah, Keith Lee's body's not going to hold up well for that. Autolycus hitting Keith Lee. Oh, Keith Lee just, beat up Autolycus. And now Keith Lee is now going to get the sandbag. And when Keith Lee won the hard middle winnings, he was doing Mark Henry's hold. Not the bear hug, the other hold. Oh! He was bear slamming, whatever you call that. Well, looks like he's going to get pissed off, Taz says. Autolycus has no one to guilt, only himself for putting himself in this bind. You could be right, Tony Schiavone said. Keith Lee's going to bring this to an end. He is, Mike Lane said. Oh! Autolycus, the King of Thieves, being dropped on that board by Keith Lee, Mike Lane says. I think this match is over. 1, 2, 3. Ding, ding, ding. Here is your winner, Keith Lee. Here is your winner and the new TWF hard middle fighter, Keith Lee. Well, Keith Lee is now the new TWF hard-made fighter. Once again here in the toy wrestling gathering, beating Autolycus, the Toy Biz Autolycus doll. Well, I know that's not all the things that came with all the dolls. We had to give a lot of the other things away, but it's what we chose to keep. Now, I thought Mike Lane says that Autolycus may have not meant to irk or anger Keith Lee, but brought up a truth about how Keith Lee doesn't really seem to be doing anything in his AEW run. And I know a lot of folks like to bring up and say, well, Keith Lee did win the AEW Tag Team Winnings once, but that was it. At least Well, that could be true, Tony Schiavone says. Keith Lee hasn't done much in his AEW run. He did a lot more in his WWE run than he did in his AEW run, Tony Schiavone says. And that is true. Well, even if Autolycus did not mean to irk or anger, Keith Lee did. And now Autolycus, the King of Thieves, is no longer the TWF hard middle fighter anymore. So sometimes you should think before you irk or anger someone, Taz says. Alright, everybody, we're going to take it away now. We're going to have Jim Ross now, Mike Lane says. Thank you, Mike Lane and Tony Schiavone. I'm going to be talking with the new TWF hard middle fighter, Keith Lee. Keith Lee, we know you won the TWF hard middle winnings before, so you are not a newcomer to this. No, it's not, Jim Ross. What really pissed me off a little is that, I made a mistake, alright? Back in 2021 YL, I was let go by WWE. And at the time, Shao Kahn and Anthony Kong, Christopher Daniels, and Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson gave me the only deal they thought they could give me. And at the time, I could take what I could get. And then I thought, I was going to win the AEW heavyweight winnings, the AEW TBS winnings, the AEW TNT winnings, the AEW Ender Land Body winnings. Well, that didn't happen, right? Yeah, my mistake, and now I'm not doing anything in AEW besides winning that. And I didn't like it when Autolycus had to bring up how I made a mistake of going to AEW. Alright? And yes, I did a lot more things in my run in WWE than I did in AEW. Mostly when I was on NXT, because when I went to Raw, not so much. But now I'm a two-time TWF hard middle fighter, and Autolycus should watch what he says about me. Well, Keith Lee, we do understand that your run in AEW wasn't the greatest, and Autolycus may have irked you, may have angered you a little over that. He may have slighted you. No, he scathed me, and he made me out to be like that I was dumb, and I should have known what was going on. Well, Jim Ross says, I do know that AEW should do a lot more with you than WWE did. And if you go back to WWE someday, no one's going to guilt you over that. Oh, I know. No one's going to guilt you if you choose to take, if one day if Ariel Adele and Patrick Whitesell, Mark Shapiro and Nick Khan and Hunter Helmsley and Shawn Michaels and Jason Albert and Steven Regal, and Jesse James, you know, you know, Michael P.X. Hayes and Brother Love want to get you back in WWE. Well, if I go back to WWE one day, great. I could either put on SmackDown for the first time, or Raw for the 200th time, or NXT for the 200th time. I don't know. At least I know I'd be doing something. But Autolycus had no right to bring any of that shit up. No, Autolycus did not have the right to bring that up, and that was on him. He should be ashamed and guilty for saying that. Even if it was true or not, it was not his stead to say any of that things. Good luck with you being the TWF hard middle fighter. Thank you. Well, that was my talk with Keith Lee. Back to you, Mike Lane and Tony Schiavone. Well, thank you, Jim Ross, for talking with Keith Lee here today on Dynamite or Mike. And that's all the time we got here for Dynamite or Mike. I'm Mike Lane, Tony Schiavone, and Tabs. We hope you like Dynamite or Mike, and we'll see you tomorrow for Impact or Hit.